Hello everyone, this is Fantasy-esque and welcome back to Season 2 of Royal Clan in ClanGen, the Warrior Cats clan generator game. When we left off in the previous episode, our clan leader, King Fernstar, died from old age, not permanently, he just lost one life, but that was pretty dramatic. And then we had some recoveries and a rat attack, where Ghost Feather was somehow set upon by a horde of rats, which he managed to fight off, but it left him severely injured. He has a rat bite. He also has a torn pelt. Hopefully he recovers from that and he doesn't get infected. Now, we are starting off with a bit of an incident for one of our cats, who has only recently recovered from her last incident. But okay. It is the second turn of Leaf Fall, and we are at Moon 67. So let's check in on the Leader's Den. We are still in an age of peace with all of our allies. And the event. Magpie got her paw stuck in a two-leg trap, but luckily escaped with only a sprain. Thankfully it is only a sprain. But guys, she only just recovered from falling into a river and having her lungs filled with water, and now she got stuck in a two-leg trap. Oh, Magpie. Oh, Magpie. Please put more effort into your safety and into your well-being, because I am, quite concerned about you. You don't seem to have too much idle time between all your incidents. So okay, let's have a look at the cats here. Basically, Magpie has joined Ghost Feather in the medicine cat den, it seems, but everyone else seems to be in good spirits. Let's check up on the medicine cat den. Ghost Feather was given burdock as treatment for rat bites. It says he should heal sooner, so hopefully that'll be okay. And then Ghost Feather was given cobwebs as treatment for torn pelt. Icicle Speck could not find any herbs this moon. Okay. Let's see how our relationships are going. King Fernstar is motivated by Frostfade's big smile. King Fernstar didn't expect Freezepaw to be so amicable today. Scorchmoss can't tell Flailstorm is upset with her. Oh. Why is Flailstorm upset with her? You know what? I'm wondering if Flailstorm... I feel like he kind of takes the people around him, or takes the cats around him for granted, and it's irritating me a bit. I'm wondering if Flailstorm, because he has, the most history with Scorchmoss and at this point the most feelings, maybe he thought, and he knows that she's been in love with him this whole time, but he wasn't really interested in her beyond being a friend. But I wonder if now that he is no longer with Magpie, he kind of expected Scorchmoss to do something about it and actually approach him more, but she didn't. Instead, she was hanging out with Magpie and bonding with her, and I wonder if that's why Flailstorm is upset with her. Flailstorm, you have problems. You have problems. Scorchmoss, King Fernstar, and Inkfeather had a nice talk while eating. Scorchmoss wishes that a clanmate liked her as much as they like Freezepaw. Icicle Speck and Scorchmoss agree about something trivial. Icicle Speck tried on an accessory that Freezepaw threw away, but realized Freezepaw looked a lot better in it. A clanmate that Flailstorm wanted to get to know better is already friends with Quillrunner. A clanmate that Flailstorm wanted to get to know better is already friends with Bearpelt. Shining Stripe notices one of his friends talking to Foxclaw. Shining Stripe and Ghost Feather plan all their days together. Okay. Flarefreckle and Frostfade spend some time together and nearly forget what made them upset with one another in the first place. So this is Flarefreckle and one of her sons, so mother-son bonding. Flarefreckle and Foxclaw always have something to share with each other. Bearpelt offers to groom a hard-to-reach place for Quillrunner, who thanks him earnestly. Again, some uncle and nephew bonding. Bearpelt gets a bunch of cats up for morning stretches. They don't like it. Bearpelt is asking Ghost Feather interesting questions, a Ghost Feather who he has the most feelings for. Bearpelt is hoping that Icicle Speck notices him. Is it me, or is Bearpelt really, really flirty? Because Bearpelt he started a new romance with Foxclaw in the last episode. He has had already, things going on with Ghost Feather and Icicle Speck. He has history with them. And it just seems like he's being so flirty. And I think he's shameless. It does make a lot of sense. A clanmate that Magpie wanted to get to know better is already friends with Flailstorm. Magpie, Quillrunner, and Ghostfeather took a sunbath and had a little small talk. Magpie includes her son Freezepaw in a conversation that Freezepaw struggled to join, so mother-son bonding. Inkfeather admires her son Foxclaw's dedication. Inkfeather asks Freezepaw how he's doing. Magpie surprises Quillrunner with something nice. At the gathering, Frostfade notices that Garlic Glow is making sure everyone got home. Foxclaw hesitantly asks to exchange Fresh Kill with Flarefreckle. Flarefreckle agrees since Foxclaw's is a favorite kind anyway. Ghostfeather spent the day arguing with Flarefreckle about whether she stole something from Ghostfeather. Okay. Magpie says she hopes Freezepaw has a nice day, some more mother-son bonding. I can almost imagine Magpie being the type of mother who gives her son like a kiss on the forehead and, you know, some encouraging words before she sends him off to training every single day. I love that. Garlic Glow considers how to make amends with Icicle Speck after a long night of deliberation. Look at that. Now, they didn't really have any sort of argument, but I remember the point being brought up in the last episode that Inkfeather was kind of telling Garlic Glow you shouldn't constantly be challenging Icicle Speck and, you know, constantly like making trouble for him and going against what he says just for the sake of making trouble. And I wonder if Garlic Glow, even though she was upset at that and she didn't necessarily agree with everything that Inkfeather was saying, because Inkfeather's a bit too subservient to her mate, the king, Garlic Glow maybe, you know, now that she's in love, is trying to think from Icicle Speck's perspective, and she's realizing that, you know, maybe sometimes she takes things a little bit too far, and maybe there are times when she kind of contends him without, or like contests what he's saying before even comprehending what he's trying to say and maybe being convinced of it afterwards. But, you know, before figuring out her own stance, she always starts off being on the opposite side of Icicle Speck and then slowly works her way to the middle. Maybe she should try and listen to his perspective and think a little bit more about what she wants to say and what she wants to do before she does it. So I think maybe that's why she had this long night of deliberation where the stuff that Inkfeather was saying maybe was playing in her mind, and now she's thinking maybe I should try to be a little bit more peaceful with Icicle Speck. Garlic Glow thinks the prey Ghostfeather is biting into on the other side of camp looks delicious, and that's what we have for events. There were a few things I noticed, which I'm wondering like what kind of effect it's going to have in relationships and what I'm going to notice, like any losses and gains. So I'll take a look at that, but okay, let's wrap up with our events and continue with the cat list. Okay, let's continue with the cat list. First up, we have a reminder of our loyalties. Now, with relationships, there were a few things I noticed, and they were kind of funny because they're all interconnected. But first up, I had a change with Garlic Glow, who has had, unsurprisingly, a romance gain for Icicle Speck. And we know that she was thinking throughout the night about how she can make amends with him, maybe with, you know, the strength of her personality and behavior sometimes. Not to say that she should diminish the way she is, but I think sometimes Garlic Glow feels as though she takes her pranks and troublesome nature like a little bit too far when it comes to Icicle Speck. So she wants to try and, you know, tone it down a little bit so they can meet in the middle more often without Icicle Speck being the one to constantly give in to her. Because I think she realizes how accommodating he is. So there was that. The second thing I noticed was with Icicle Speck himself, who has also had a romance gain for Garlic Glow, which is very, very nice to see and made me super duper happy. Because now finally I think he actually has more feelings for Garlic Glow than he does for Shining Stripe. Up until this point, even though he was making effort with Garlic Glow because he felt responsible towards her, he still had the most like romantic attachment to Shining Stripe, even though from Shining Stripe's perspective, it's pretty much done and dusted. There's nothing kind of left for them to pursue anymore. But Icicle Speck, I think because of how attached he was towards the end of that relationship, was having a hard time kind of letting go, but only now has Garlic Glow managed to finally, you know, surpass the feelings that Icicle Speck had for Shining Stripe. So that was a nice change. The next thing I noticed was with Bear Pelt, which I think is also unsurprising, but he has had a romance gain for Icicle Spec, and currently he has the most feelings for Icicle Spec. We know that he was prancing around trying to get Icicle Spec to notice him. It obviously didn't make much of a difference in to Icicle Spec in his perspective, because his feelings for Bear Pelt have remained unchanged. But Bear Pelt, I think, got himself all excited over Icicle Spec because of that. So that's something. So yeah, that's kind of connected. And then the other connection that we have is, surprisingly for me, with Magpie. Magpie has actually started a new romance with Bear Pelt, and I was trying to work out why this might be the case, and I couldn't really figure it out. I think in the last episode, maybe during events, she helped him shelter from like a storm in a den or something. Or was it the other way around? Hold on a second. So basically, I think it must have been a couple episodes back. It was a couple episodes back when Magpie helped Bear Pelt get safely to his den. But back then, like, there was no romance. This romance, because I check every episode, has almost happened over the, like, overnight, over the moon. So I'm not sure why exactly Magpie has found herself suddenly drawn to Bear Pelt, but this is a new romance that she has now started noticing Bear Pelt. I suppose him prancing around didn't get Icicle Spec's attention, but definitely got Magpie's attention, so that's kind of funny. But that's all I have for relationships. Now let's go to Inkfeather, our matchmaker, and see if we can have a matchmaking session with Garlic Glow and Icicle Spec. Okay, so platonic like, respect, comfort has increased, jealousy and dislike have decreased. So these two have gone back to maybe being, I think, you know what, instead of shy, Garlic Glow maybe being reprimanded by Inkfeather and, thinking things through the night, maybe feels a little bit embarrassed, maybe speaking out as much as she did in the last moon with Inkfeather here, and those thoughts kind of swirling around in her head. So she's maybe speaking a lot more cautiously, and so the romantic mood isn't entirely there. And Icicle Spec is probably seeing, Garlic Glow's demeanor, and he's thinking that maybe he shouldn't kind of rush into anything. Maybe he should give her a little bit of space, because he can't really figure out why she's had a sudden change in the way she's talking to him. So he's being cautious, but I think this was still good. Okay, so now that we have wrapped up with that, let's go ahead and see what everyone's doing for the day. King Fernstar feels his paws are guided by his ancestors. Garlic Glow cleans the clearing of fallen leaves. Icicle Spec is playing a prank on Flare Freckle. Guys, he's getting influenced. He's getting influenced by his mate. And Flare Freckle is his former apprentice, which I completely forgot about, but that is a good reminder to get. But that's kind of fascinating. That Garlic Glow, she's trying to fix her behavior, but she's influenced Icicle Spec. Inkfeather had a nice chat with a cat from another clan at the border, so one of the independent cats from the other groups. Shining Stripe is crushing leaves under his paws, so he's actually helping out the royal physician at the... Well, I don't know where the heck the royal physician is. He's playing a prank, but Shining Stripe is helping out at the medicine cat den. Flare Freckle tries to set a good example for younger cats. Bear Pelt is taking a nap in Shining Stripe's nest. That's adorable, because it's taking a nap in his brother's nest. Magpie wants to train. Cool Runner wants to compliment Magpie's fighting techniques. Again, Cool Runner spending time with Magpie. Remember when she had water in her lungs and Flailstorm was watching stars with King Fernstar, but Cool Runner was with her? This is like reminding me of that again, because again, she has like a sprained paw. She's in the medicine cat den. She wants to train, she can't. Cool Runner's the one apparently who's checking up on her, and maybe he's helping her go through some like stretching exercises and complimenting her fighting techniques, so going through theory with her. That's actually really cute. Frostfade cleans the clearing of fallen leaves. Wait, Frostfade, you are hanging out with Garlic Glow. Okay, you're hanging out with Garlic Glow. which is fascinating because Icicle Spec hates Frostfade. He probably wouldn't be too happy with that. Foxclaw is looking forward to the next gathering. Ghost Feather saw a kitty pet with no fur at all. Freezepaw daydreams about being a warrior in Tiger Clan. Scorchmoss can't find Icicle Spec anywhere. And Flowstorm is thinking about how awful kitty pet food must taste. So that is all we have for the cat list. Let's wrap up over here and continue with patrols. Okay, let's resume with our patrols. We currently have 126.8 prey. We need 38.5. So we don't have to worry about hunting. Let's send out a Royal Physician, Icicle Spec first off to see what he finds. Leaffall holds the last chances to stock up on herbs that will die off in Leaf Bear, and Icicle Spec heads out to gather fresh mallow for the stores. Proceed. With the Leaffall mallow starting to die back in the next step in its endless perennial cycle, Icicle Spec collects all he can. That, as it turns out, is actually quite a lot. So mallow was gathered, then we're going to have a patrol of 6 and a patrol of 3. So let's see if King Fernstar is going to be consistent with his training method this time around. No! Okay, this is the first training session, or this is the first patrol where Fernstar is actually taking his apprentice with him and supervising him. Maybe because Freezepaw is now, has now entered officially his second half of training. Maybe the first half was supposed to give Freezepaw a lot of independence to figure himself out, but in the second half, Fernstar wants to check in with him and see how much he's learned. That would be interesting. Very interesting. I'm also noticing how consistently, ever since he got an apprentice, has been sending his son, Foxclaw, in a separate patrol from him. So we have in this patrol Frostfade, Garlic Glow, Cool Runner, Shining Stripe, Freezepaw, and King Fernstar. Let's see what they get up to. The patrol wants to hold a training session for Freezepaw. They decide to focus on tree climbing. Okay, proceed. Freezepaw listens carefully as the proper techniques of tree climbing are explained. Look at that. I feel like Freezepaw, he's strict, and, for that reason, King Fernstar thought he had good discipline, which is why he kept sending him with his son and the other cats, giving him a bit more freedom than an apprentice would typically get. But I think sometimes Freezepaw, because he wanted to strictly pursue a certain thing, he became kind of distracted or lax when it came to listening to the cats, observing the cats around him. But it seems as though now that he's back with King Fernstar, he's actually listening to his mentor very, very closely. So this is good. This is very good. And then we have Foxclaw, Bearpelt, and Flare Freckle. So let's see how these guys get along and what they get up to. Bearpelt is tempted to eat the prey he just caught. Proceed. He resists the temptation, going on to make a couple of great catches to make sure the elders are fed. Look at him being responsible, especially because Bearpelt, I think, is very shameless. I'm kind of surprised it didn't eat that. And a large amount of prey is brought to camp. So now we have 155.6, which is amazing. Sometimes these cats really surprise us with the way we expect them to act and then the way they actually end up acting. But good on these royals. They're being quite responsible. But okay guys, with that said and done, I am going to leave off here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.